Hi everyone, my name is Michael and I used to be a banker.
Ask a finance guy, when should you buy a house versus rent a house? Plug that question into an online browser and you're gonna see no end to opinions about it, and in fact some really sophisticated financial calculators to help you do the math. Many of these calculators are great. I love the New York Times one myself, but let me make this super simple for you and take away all the math. Because even though the math appears to provide the certainty of numbers, it really involves a whole bunch of future financial made-up numbers that are not actually knowable. Buying a house versus renting a house from this finance guy's perspective is actually super duper simple, and it comes down to two factors only. The first is, do you have a steady job with a predictable income? Because if you don't, this is way too risky. And second, do you plan to stay in the same place for the next 5 years? If you don't, real estate is just too volatile and the costs of getting in and out are just too high between attorney fees, title fees, loan origination. But if you can satisfy those two minimum conditions, you should absolutely buy, not rent. So again, couldn't be clearer to me. If you have a steady job, and if you have 5 years in the same place, buy, not rent. There are extraordinary financial advantages to owning your own home. The first one is automatic savings. And look, everybody has a hard time accumulating big chunks of savings. But when you make your mortgage payments on the house that you own, what you're actually doing is taking little chunks of savings that go towards mortgage principal. And that's how middle-class people can actually acquire large amounts of savings through their home. The second is tax advantages. And look, everybody knows about the mortgage interest tax deduction, which is great. But that's not even the big one. The big one is that as the value of your house goes up, you get to keep tax-free $250,000 when you sell your home. Or if you're married, up to $500,000 tax-free. And there is no other financial asset that gives you that kind of tax-free growth in value. Another tax advantage is that property taxes are generally deductible on your income tax, and there's some other mortgage-related expenses like points also tax deductible. Third point is inflation protection. If there's inflation in the economy, you can reasonably expect the value of your house will go up in line with that inflation. So it's kind of like your own little inflation hedge in your house. It's pretty cool. And the fourth point is leverage. If you have a mortgage, and most people do, you end up being able to buy more home than you could otherwise being afford. I mean, being debt-free is great, and everybody should aspire to that. But the fact is, the financial leverage offered by a traditional mortgage is something totally unavailable to most people outside of home ownership. Look, you can make the rent versus buy conversation much more complicated than this, but I'm in the making things simple business. So if you have a stable job and you're staying in the same place for 5 years, buy.